Hello, this is BBC World News. I'm Lucy Gray. The headlines. After a bitterly fought presidential campaign, French voters choose between the political outsider, Emmanuel Macron, and the far-right's Marine Le Pen. 82 Nigerian schoolgirls kidnapped by Islamist militants 3 years ago have now been freed. 6,000 migrants are rescued in the Mediterranean in just 2 days. Dozens of operations led by the Italian Coast Guard. Hello and welcome to BBC World News. More than 40 million French voters are going to the polls to choose their new president. After a bitterly fought campaign which saw candidates from the traditional parties rejected, the nation now has a straight choice between the pro-European centrist Emmanuel Macron and the far-right candidate Marine Le Pen. Polling stations have been open across France for just over an hour now, and initial indications of the result will come through at around 1800 GMT. Karin Giannoni is in Paris for us.
We're at a polling station in the 3rd arrondissement, and you may have noticed it is pouring with rain. Obviously, there are thoughts that weather might affect turnouts. Across France, it's a pretty mixed picture, but France has a turnout rate that other democracies can only dream of, around 80%. Anything below that would be considered low. At this polling station in the 3rd arrondissement, we've just heard from the president of the polling station that in the first round it was 86%. But what a campaign it has been so far. This report from Richard Slee.
Today's vote is being seen as the most important in France for decades. The two candidates have very opposite views of Europe and the future of France in the wider world. The National Front's Marine Le Pen would close borders and quit the euro currency. Emmanuel Macron wants closer European cooperation and an open economy. He's a former economy minister who last year quit the current socialist government to concentrate on his new independent political movement. His campaign was the last-minute victim of a hacking attack which saw an online leak of thousands of emails and documents. The French election watchdog has advised the media not to publish details from the documents, warning it could lead to criminal charges and that some of the documents are probably fake. Polls are open today until early evening, but some French nationals living abroad were able to cast their vote from yesterday, including about 100,000 people who live in the UK. The winner is expected to be announced later tonight. Richard Slee, BBC News.
When the polling stations close in the major cities at 8 o'clock local time, that is when, very shortly after the close of polls, we expect the projected result, which is a pretty accurate history across the results that have come out in the past of who France's next president will be. Just reminding you of the polls as we went into this period of electoral silence before the vote itself, that Emmanuel Macron was on 63% and Marine Le Pen was trailing behind on 37%.
Security for the polling day today itself.
Yeah. There's been so much going on in this campaign, not least the attack 2 weeks ago that killed a police officer not far from here on the streets of Paris. So security is still very much on the authorities' mind. France is under a state of emergency. It has been since the attacks of 2015, and there are tens of thousands of extra security personnel patrolling the streets of the major cities and other places all around France. 50,000 extra police, 12,000 soldiers on the streets of Paris alone. We've just seen a few go past. So they're keeping a low-level presence, but they are there. While the people of France are focusing on politics, the authorities' focus is on keeping France safe.
Karin Giannoni there for us. And don't forget, you can follow the French election results later on with analysis and reports from our correspondents across the country, starting from 17:30 GMT right here on BBC World News. Now, Islamist militants of the Boko Haram group have released 82 schoolgirls who they kidnapped from Chibok in Nigeria. A government official said that they were freed in exchange for a number of its fighters. Stephanie Hegarty is in Lagos and gave us the latest.
What we know so far is that around yesterday afternoon, a group of 82 girls were freed by Boko Haram and taken in by the Nigerian army. They're now in custody of the Nigerian army. We hear that they are in an army base close to the Cameroon border. But in the past few minutes, some of the first batch of girls has been airlifted to Abuja, the capital. They're due to meet the president today. And so far, we don't know very much about their condition, about how healthy they are, whether they're well fed. We do know, though, that this is the second time that a group of girls have been released by Boko Haram, following lengthy negotiations between the government and the militants. Last time, some of those girls did require medical assistance, urgent medical assistance, and this time it may be a similar situation.
Yeah, and they were held for 3 years. There has been a lot of criticism, hasn't there, of the officials and why it's taken so long to secure their release, hasn't there?
Yes, there has indeed. Most of this criticism has been aimed at the last administration of Goodluck Jonathan. At the time that the girls were kidnapped, it took days and almost weeks for the administration to admit that they had been taken. And much time was wasted in a kidnap situation. Those first hours, those first few days are crucial. But this administration also seems to have been taking a long time. Negotiations did break down at certain points. They were very honest about that. Also, they're dealing with a Boko Haram that is divided. It's in 2 separate factions. And they have publicly said that that's been an issue in the negotiations. It's interesting, though, how this has all played out. And late last night, when the presidency issued a statement, they thanked the International Red Cross, they thanked the Swiss government. So clearly they were very involved in the negotiation process.
Yeah, obviously great news for those girls that have been released, but what about the ones who are still being held by Boko Haram? It's thought that maybe more than 100 still.
Yes, if we do the maths, it would seem about 115 girls are yet to be returned. There's no news on their condition. We don't know whether they're alive or dead. We do know that families in Chibok will be celebrating today, but many of them won't be seeing their girls return.
Stephanie Hegarty there. Now, the British comedian Stephen Fry is being investigated by police in the Republic of Ireland on suspicion of blasphemy. An investigation has been launched into whether he broke any laws with a description of God during an interview in 2015. Under Irish law, it's illegal to abuse or insult anything held sacred by a religion, although it's not thought any prosecutions have ever been pursued under the law. Stephen Fry says he was not offensive towards any particular religion. Now, the Italian Coast Guard says around 6,000 migrants who were trying to reach Europe have been rescued in the Mediterranean over the past 48 hours. Officials said they coordinated around 40 separate emergency missions on Friday and Saturday. Many of the migrants were trying to make the crossing from Libya in makeshift vessels. Sarah Corker reports.
On the Italian coast, this has become an all-too-familiar scene. Rescued at sea, 400 migrants arrive in the Sicilian port of Catania. They're given plastic bags with rations inside and wait for medical help. And this is a stark reminder of the dangers they face. The body of a Gambian teenager allegedly shot by human traffickers because they wanted his baseball hat is taken off the boat. Human rights groups have criticised the EU's response to this crisis.
I'm sad that Europe is failing and is not taking responsibility of this humanitarian catastrophe that is unfolding in front of our eyes. People continue to die. People are desperate.
There had been a pause of migrant boats leaving Libya since Easter because of bad weather and rough seas. But in the past 48 hours, the Italian Coast Guard has rescued around 6,000 migrants. Others were intercepted by Libyan officials and turned back.
A regular patrol left this morning to northeast Tripoli. A migrant boat with 162 migrants on it was rescued. They were being held at the naval base and they've been given medical care.
Most of those attempting to make the perilous journey come from African countries, some fleeing persecution, many seeking a better life.
I'm Mamadou Bari from Gambia. Today we entered the sea at 4 o'clock a.m. to go to Italia. We went until we entered international sea. We were able to captured by these people.
Just this weekend, Italy's foreign minister visited Libya to discuss how to stop human traffickers. And according to official figures, so far this year, more than 1,000 people have died or are missing trying to cross the Mediterranean. Sarah Corker, BBC News.
Right, that's all from me from this hour. Don't forget you can find most of the team on Twitter. I'm at Lucy E. Gray. Coming up next, it's Africa Business Report. Do stay with us here on BBC World News.
Hello there. A late season chill is on the way for northern and northeastern parts of Europe over the next few days and nights. This was earlier on, though. This area of cloud across central areas bringing some showers, some heavier showers moving through the Black Sea and heading eastwards across Turkey on Sunday. And at the same time, we'll see some heavier showers pushing it into the Balkans all the way into Poland. Further west across Europe, sunshine, though, continues this weekend across Iberia, and temperatures are continuing to climb, particularly across the south of both Spain and Portugal. Further north, though, into France, it's somewhat cooler, more showery weather. That's spilling its way into southern parts of Germany. 17 degrees in Berlin. That's as warm as it's going to get for the next few days, and temperatures just about making double figures across the south of Scandinavia. A bit of rain around here, but it's a northerly wind that's coming down that will drag down that colder air across many northern and northeastern areas of Europe. Still got some showers heading away from the Balkans towards the Black Sea. Mediterranean warm in the sunshine, and we've still got more sunshine to come across Spain and Portugal. That is Monday. The outlook for Tuesday and Wednesday. Conditions improving actually in Paris as those showers move away. A bit more cloud though for Madrid and Rome, and we could get some frost all the way as far south as Slovakia and Hungary perhaps earlier on in the week, but we keep the warm weather in the eastern Mediterranean and the sunshine.